All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is going to be session 8 of 47 amazing sessions that we have here for Dare to Be Great 3. This is an excellent session that's going to be here closing out the pre-con day, really, of DTBG 3, because tomorrow is the official first day, and it is going to be excellent. This session was given out at, what was it, North Carolina, right?
Yes.
North Carolina at that conference, and it was excellent. The story that you're about to hear it's awesome. I'm happy to have them both here. And this session is going to be when the storm hits, leveraging new resources for disaster response. And we have Dan Wright, who's the deputy director over at Baldwin County 911 out of Alabama. And no introduction needed, of course, for Tracy Eldridge on scene first. Take it away, the both of you.
Awesome. Thank you. So apparently there's a bet. So I'm just going to say I'm super excited. Wicked excited to be here with my good friend, Dan Wright. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have an hour and we have a ton of information to give to you. So just a quick introduction as to who we are. So many of you know me. For those that don't, my name is Tracy Eldridge, and I am with On Scene First, a training, motivating, mental health and wellness company that was spawned out of my passion for 911 and all things around it. I spent the last 4 years with Rapid SOS. And prior to that, I was in a 911 center. I spent 20 years in the 911 center. I joke that I'm a recovering PSAP director in a 20-step program, one for every year that I was there. But my passion is 911, and about a year ago, started the podcast On Scene First with Tracy Eldridge, and just so many amazing things that have happened. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the podcast episode that I had with Dan, and that's where this session sparked from. But first, Dan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tracy. I think if I'd have put that over under at 5 seconds, I still would not have had any takers. So the 2 seconds got it. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. And I'm super excited, not wicked. I'm super excited to be able to present this for this conference and the hospitality and the opportunity that Ricardo's given us. I'm Dan Wright. I am the deputy director for Baldwin County, Alabama 911. We are on the beautiful Alabama Gulf Coast, right between the Mississippi Gulf Coast and the Florida Gulf Coast, of course. Baldwin County is to the east of Mobile County and Mobile Bay, and we are the county just adjacent of Florida, Escambia County. So my 911 journey, or my public safety journey, starts in 1997 as a volunteer firefighter. Served in the volunteer fire world. Started in 911 in 2001. So this March for me was a full 20 years in 911. I went on to be a career firefighter with the city of Birmingham Fire and Rescue Service in Alabama, retired as a captain in the safety division, and had this wonderful opportunity to take this job at Baldwin County. And prior to here in 911, I was the director of Chilton County 911 in Alabama, which is Chilton County is about halfway between Birmingham and Montgomery in Alabama, right in the geographical center of the state of Alabama. So that's where we are. I've been here in Baldwin County for just over a year now, 14 months to be exact. And what a 14 months has been.
You think? So you've had a few things that you've had to deal with, right?
Yeah, just a few, moved during the pandemic, started a new job during the pandemic, experienced my first ever hurricane. So it's been a trip.
Yeah. So those are some of that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So you and I did a podcast. You were one of the first folks. I can't remember the actual number. Maybe you can. My brain is fried, but if at anything, go back and find the podcast On Scene First with Tracy Eldridge, and you'll see Dan's session there. And we talked about a lot of things in that particular conversation. And when we were done, I thought to myself, wow, this would be a really good session for a conference. But, right about that time, the whole world was shutting down, and we didn't think we would have the opportunity to put this to paper. And then North Carolina happened, and we started chatting and said, hey, let's do this. And we did. So as far as the agenda goes, the things that we're going to talk about are Hurricane Sally that hit our friends in Baldwin. We're going to talk about TERT. We're going to talk about the well-being of your staff, and then the importance of embracing new technology. But before we get started, really important. I don't know if you noticed, but Dan talks funny. And some of the words that he says, and some of the words that I say are gonna sound very different. So with my Massachusetts accent, there are times where I add an R where they don't belong, take them away where they do. And if I get really squirrely, there's an AH that gets added. So just for the record, we're going to talk about this word right here. If you hear data, that's going to be me.
Data.
And if you hear data, it's going to be him. So just wanted to get that translation out of the way and poke a little fun at the differences in the way we talk. So there you go. All right, Dan, I'm going to toss it over to you to talk about when Hurricane Sally rode into your jurisdiction.
Whew. So y'all have to bear with me because my days and times are still not all together. But so Hurricane Sally was what was supposed to be a tropical storm Sally with no huge impacts. And we all know that that's not what occurred. So, a couple of days before the event, we start for us along the Gulf Coast, June 1st, well, really May now through October, it's a constant watch on the waters of the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico to see what is going on and what the models are suggesting for the next 7 to 10 days. So, we started watching Sally before she became Sally, and we started, having internal talks and making preparations, and we're pretty confident we had a good handle on things. And up until the day before, we had called in extra staff and gotten ready, and we're on. Everybody's here at the center, and that we thought we needed, and myself and our director Joby Smith and our GIS manager Scott Warner, we're all here. We're just making sure we got all the logistics taken care of. And around 10 or 11 o'clock the night, so on the 15th, around 10 or 11 p.m., me and Joby had a little meeting and just kind of took things. And I said, I'm gonna go back to dispatch and just answer a few calls and just hang out with the dispatchers. And boy, I think it was about 4 hours later before I realized what I got myself into as Sally made landfall. And there's actually a funny story. Well, it's not a funny story. There's a story behind that. Joby tells me that he was up in his office and, realized it had been a few hours since he'd heard from me. So he comes back here looking for me, and he said he walked into just a constant ringing and buzzing of phones and radio traffic because we had gotten so entrenched in what we were doing, I didn't even have time to let him know what was going on.
So apparently it was a wicked big storm, right?
Wicked big storm.
Wicked big storm. So one of the things that you guys realized early on was you were going to need some help. So you talked about your staff and how much they contributed. And I think how we're going to talk about this is really important, understanding why we need TERT and when when it comes in and how it's supposed to come in. But for those of you that might be baby dispatchers or, folks that are new to the profession or don't always have the opportunity to access training and you're here for the first time, we want to kind of define what TERT is. So Dan, do you want to explain what TERT is? I know I have the definition up there, but in your mind, what does TERT look like to you? And then we'll talk about your plea in just a minute.
So TERT is basically an assistance program, or it's basically other dispatchers coming in to help supplement and assist your dispatchers or your call takers or whatever staff you have in the event of a disaster or other events that that may require them to need time off the console, such as line of duty deaths or anything like that. So basically, it's really a mutual aid system for 911.
And we're so used to hearing about the mutual aid between law enforcement and fire. And, it's nice to see that TERT is finally taking off and getting the recognition. I know there's a lot of folks that were kind of helped build that foundation that just made a really big difference in getting folks to see the value in TERT. So I know that this was really important to you guys. But the mission of it is, through APCO, through NINA, it's basically it is a standardized program that allows for folks to learn from others, to put in a network foundation. And if you're looking to get involved in your TERT team for your community, there are so many ways to figure out where that information lives. So you'll have our contact information. We'll point you in the direction if you want to find out, one, does your state have a TERT program? And number two, how you find out who your TERT liaison is that kind of leads your state. So in Massachusetts, we're just ramping up our TERT team for the multiple times. We've tried to do this a few times, but I think the folks that are in place are really going to see this moving forward, and I'm really excited to see that. So then we come to the day that I'm tagged in a social media post, and I look at it and it's a tag from you, and the tag is on LinkedIn and Facebook, but it was this post right here. Dan, you want to talk about this post and what happened? What was the result?
So, this was probably something that'll live in infamy and will follow me my entire career. So as I mentioned, Joby walks into us getting just overwhelmed with calls and radio traffic. And so at some time during that process, Joby went and woke up the rest of the staff that we had here on site so that we could fill all the console positions. It just literally happened so fast and it was so overwhelming that none of us on the floor had time to get up and go get that extra staff that we had here to come and help us. So, once we got things reorganized after that, and I was actually able to come off the console. I was able to start really assessing what was going on and take a step back and not be in the trenches with the crew. And so at that point, Joby and I I believe, realized at almost the same time that we needed help. We needed more help than we could get locally because it was a storm that affected our entire county plus our surrounding counties. So, Joby had experience from Hurricane Michael over in Bay County, Florida, and we made the decision to contact State EMA for a TERT team response. As you can probably imagine from this post I made, that didn't go well. When we made that initial request, the initial request was denied. So we kind of took a step back, and we probably spent 30, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour trying to craft this message to ensure that what we were doing was not going to cause a lot of freelancing. And you can see I have in all caps, you must follow these directions in order to be considered. So as we're working through this, how we're going to handle this and put this out, we finally decided to, make the post and move forward with it. And so this is the result that you see on the screen here. And while I will say even today that under normal circumstances that this way should never be used to request assistance, but at the time it was all we had, and it was really our last cry and plea to get help here, so that we could relieve our dispatchers and get them away from what we knew they were experiencing and what they were going to experience over the next several days. So as you can see, I posted an update, I don't know, a few hours later maybe, that we finally did get approval with the state EMA to look outside the state. So a little background on that is the state of Alabama at the time, and we unfortunately still don't, we're working very hard to make it happen, but there was no organized TERT team in Alabama. So, once you get into disasters and out-of-state resources, there's funding and who's going to pay for it and all of those concerns that, frankly, we just don't give a damn about when we're in the middle of the disaster. But I understand all those things have to be taken into consideration. So, but once we got the EMAC request approved and we were able to get outside resources, things started happening really, really fast. And I got to tell you, I have gained some lifelong friends through Tyrell Morris and Jonathan Jones. Them two guys, they pulled together, and I don't know what phone calls they made and who they told what, but I can tell you that those two people played a tremendous role in getting us the resources that we needed to get here and help us.
See, and I thought, when I looked at the, am I echoing?
I don't hear an echo.
Okay, good. Because I keep hearing a little bit of an echo. Sorry about that. So when you tagged me in the post, I thought you were looking for me to come down and be a telecommunicator again. So I know that when I get there, my headset will be waiting for me, right?
It will. I got a brand new one in the box for you.
Yay! But these were some of the folks that came to join you. I know that there are tons of pictures floating around out there, but shout out to Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and Louisiana. Right? Those were the folks that came in and joined you.
Yep.
Awesome.
So there's a little backstory to that. So, this was in September of 2020, and I had just arrived here in May of 2020. So the agency I left, Chilton County, both agencies use the same 911 phone system and the same CAD system. So as all this started happening, I think I actually called them before we got the TERT request officially approved. So I called, she's now the director, Tara Scott, and a huge shout out to my friends in Chilton County, because I made a call, and I think they arrived around 2 p.m. of the day the storm hit. So within 12 hours of landfall, they were on site and providing relief to our dispatchers. And it was a seamless transition because they needed zero training. They were able to just sit down with a 5-minute overview of some operational stuff, and they were able to take 911 calls immediately. So, huge shout out to everybody that helped, but I've got to give special recognition to my Chilton County friends who were there for us, almost in an instant.
Yeah. And I think you were spot on when you said, we react, right? We're reactive. And if something's broken, just like in the last session with Edie, something wasn't working properly. And then Ricardo went right back into dispatcher mode. Like, how am I going to fix this? I'm going to piece it together, whether I use duct tape or, whatever it is that I need to use. I'm going to do what I have to do to make this situation work. But as far as some of the lessons learned, one of the things, if, you want to just talk to, the importance of each one of these things, and then, I'll follow up with a couple things, but definitely talk about some of these lessons learned. So preparing in advance, you learn that very quickly, because when you send out that Facebook message, you learned that it wasn't the best way to do things. But what do you want to say about the preparing in advance?
So, as a PSAP administrator, leader, whatever your title may be, or even as the people on the floor, you've got to know what your local process is for requesting mutual aid, whether it be through TERT or some other resource that your local agency uses with neighboring, or however you pull that off. You've got to know your process of how that works. We knew the process. It's just, unfortunately, our process here in Alabama was broken at the time, and so we had not communicated with those state partners to know, okay, if we get in this situation, what's going to happen? So knowing that process, reaching out to those people and knowing, who you're going to call if that request can be fulfilled. And if it cannot, where do you go next? And that's part of preparing in advance and also having a process. So part of our process that was broken as far as receiving help is that we did not have adequate materials to send to these TERT responders so that they could study on their way in, as far as, some basic operational guidelines and radio etiquette and, our departments that we dispatch for. We had none of that set up. So that was a very important lesson. So not only are we dealing with the aftermath and the calls that continued for days upon end, we're having to break away other resources and put together this really quick crash course, SOG, for these people that are coming in to help us. Another thing that we did not do well was we did not communicate with our staff what the purpose of TERT was. There was a lot of feelings, and I take full ownership for this. There was a lot of feelings from our staff that it was thought that they weren't able to do their job, and that's why we brought the other help in, was because we didn't trust them to do their work. That was the furthest thing from the truth that there could have ever been. And one final thing that was probably one of the biggest hurdles that we overcame is, once we worked through all these other things, is that as our staff is trying to train the TERT responders on how our agency does the things a little different, just like everybody does, is that our staff wanted the TERT responders to be able to do the job at the same level that they can do. And that's just never going to happen. So I had to step in and set the level of expectation that, we're not trying to provide the same level of service that we do day in and day out. Our goal here is just to take the calls and get a responder on the way, the appropriate responder or level of response. And, we can work through the rest of these things as time goes by. So that was probably, if we had to prioritize our lessons learned, those are some of the top ones for sure.
Yeah. And I think, and I know you and I talked after about, some of these things in the podcast. Well, we had conversations before the podcast, and then we had conversations on the podcast about that feeling of your telecommunicators. I remember when I, was in charge of my center, and my folks would have a really bad call, the non-common call, and I would make that effort to get somebody in, to let them go home and decompress and, hug their child or cat or dog or whatever it was that they needed. And then there were times that I would meet resistance with that. It's like, no, I'm fine. But I now know the importance of taking that mental health break. And I think so often the telecommunicators just feel like it's theirs, it's their community, and they're not ready to necessarily turn it over to somebody. So when you work so hard to have training and good customer service and good call handling, and then to kind of, I don't want to say half-ass it, that's not the term I'm looking for, but that's kind of the mindset of it, is, just doing the bare minimum. It's this like tug of war between you and the person you really are in the profession. So I give you a lot of credit for recognizing these things as being challenges and learning from them. But I also know you guys well enough. So you and Joby thought it, was really, you knew it was really important to take care of your staff. Will you talk about some of the things that you guys put in place that may have been little things, but in the end, they clearly ended up being pretty big things?
Yeah, these are some of the highlights of things we did. And, that was one thing that I think that we did that really got our people back on track and was able to let them understand that what we were doing was in no way to question their ability or their willingness to do the job that was in front of them. So, Joby has a lot of, I'm brand new here, but, Joby and our staff have a lot of great contacts with local people. And so some things that we were able to do was, it was either the day of or the next day, one of the local fire chiefs, his mom had a little snow cone trailer. So they brought that on site and set it up out back in our parking lot, and free snow cones for all the dispatchers. So, that was great. Just something real small, but got them out of the center, and they were able to go out in the parking lot. Of course, after any major storm, the weather's going to be perfect for several days. So Something else we did was we brought in a massage therapist, so they were able to, get some 15 or 20-minute massages. I will say that was one thing I did not get, but I think I'll be okay. We have some local contacts with a organization called Canines for Christ. So
puppies.
They were able to bring puppies up here on several different occasions. We worked it out and scheduled it so that everybody here, including the TERT members, were able to spend some time with their therapy dogs. Other things that we did was our GIS our GIS division and Scott, our GIS manager, worked really hard to get maps and spreadsheets of all of our employees and what their needs were. And we were able to coordinate with several different cleanup crews to get all of our. So real quick on that, every one of our employees were affected in some way or another. Some had, damage to their homes. Others, it was just, dozens of trees down in their yard. So we were able to coordinate and get cleanup crews sent to every employee's home so that they either had assistance or their yard was completely cleaned up, or their home, put some tarps on the roof to prevent any further water damage. And another thing that we were able to do was set up a GoFundMe account, and through the gracious 911 community and all of our brothers and sisters in 911 and people like yourself that contributed, we and some other organizations that did some work and fundraising outside of GoFundMe, we were able to give a gift card to every employee around the 1st of December. I think it was around the 1st of December, so that everybody, all of our employees that worked during the salary got a gift card that allowed them to, spend money on them or for their family for Christmas. So that was just another token that I believe I don't want to say a number, but I believe it was around, because I know some of my people are going to watch this, but I believe it was around $250 that we were able to give to every employee. And we're talking about, around 30 employees. So that it was a very substantial and appreciated that we were able to do that.
Yeah, when I first saw the GoFundMe page, I thought it was for you to get your massage, but I'm glad to see that you were, sharing this with your folks. Because one of the things that we talked about on the podcast too is that there was so many things that they had to replace that you wouldn't think of having to replace at that time. So many people in your community were out of power for a decent amount of time. And with that, you're losing whole refrigerators full of food and condiments and, the things that you just don't even think about. So I'm sure there was a considerable amount of money that was put out by your staff at the time when it happened. So I'm sure they were really appreciative of that gesture. Right. So that was really, really helpful. And I think that's great. So yes. Me, I'm all about, mental health and checking in with our folks and, PTSD. Obviously many folks know that I'm a huge advocate for mental health and PTSD, but it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's not like, oh, you had a bad day. Oh, you had a bad call, or you had a few bad calls and then flick the switch and it's here. It happens over time. So how are your folks doing today? We're looking at, a couple months away, it'll be a year. But a lot has happened in that year. So on top of it, how are your folks doing today?
Overall, we're doing very well. There's still the everyday calls, and there's still, I believe, a few things that get us on edge a little. It's back to hurricane season, so I think we're all anxiously awaiting that first storm that's projected to make it into the Gulf or be projected to make landfall somewhere along the Gulf Coast. And, so I believe there's going to be a little anxiety come up as we move through this summer season and this hurricane season. But, overall, we've been doing very well. I'm happy to say that we did not lose any employees due to the events that occurred around and surrounding Hurricane Sally. That's not to say that they're not still affected by any means, but there was nothing career-ending that occurred at the time. But myself and Joby and all of our supervisors are going to really have to be on our toes, so to say, that we are sure that as we move into this season, and more particularly when that first storm is projected to come our way, that we're really watching and making sure we're taking care of people. And we have a lot of lessons learned, so we know there's a lot of things that we can do a better job and plan ahead to get resources staged a lot better. And unfortunately, we just have to deal with the day-to-day stuff in between there. It's just like, unfortunately, last night, and it's not the topic of this by any means, but one of our local sheriff's deputies was killed in a line of duty trying to rescue swimmers in the Gulf that were in distress. So, last night was pretty rough. And as we move through this week, so many things that we do are tied to the Gulf of Mexico, and whether it's hurricanes or swimmers in distress and drownings, it's just part of life here.
Yep. And my heart goes out to you as well as to the folks here in Massachusetts. The Worcester Fire Department had a similar incident where we lost one of the officers here in our state. Same situation. So on top of all of the stuff that happens every day, we have these critical incidents. So obviously really passionate about making sure that our folks are doing well. So Puppies for Everyone. If you're a director, I want to make sure that you're hearing us loud and clear. Puppies make days better, right? So if you have the opportunity to bring puppies into your centers, by all means, bring them puppies, as long as nobody has an allergy. So make sure that,
and I just want to touch on that again, Tracy. It was amazing. Obviously the dogs can't be around the whole shift, but just that little bit of time, I think was truly a big relief for our people. So much so that they were recently requested to come back, and I was already working on that. And unfortunately, this event happened yesterday, but
right.
we have been able to schedule for this latest event that the puppies will be here within the next couple hours. So
that is awesome. I think you need to send pictures out of the puppies. So
we definitely will.
Love that. So I'm glad that your folks are doing much better. So as you know, I'm, not only an advocate for mental health, but also an advocate for, I just added an R into advocate. Like there's no R there. I don't know why I do that. It's weird. But I'm an advocate for leveraging new technology, any type of technology that's going to help the telecommunicator do their job. Just even if it's just a little more helpful. And I don't know if you noticed the way that I very strategically said that is to just help them do their job in a more helpful way, because if I say that it's going to help them do their job better, I don't want folks to feel like, that we're saying they can't do their job well. It's a matter of utilizing resources that a lot of them are free, right? So they're no-brainers there. We know that you guys used a lot of technology in your center during this event and other events. So we're going to kind of poke into a few of these technologies that you guys utilize, and then we're going to point out a couple more. So we'll specifically talk about the Rapid SOS Portal, what 3 words, that app, and how it's being useful, Texty, Google Voice, and Plus Code. So we'll each have a little bit to say about each one of these. And it's not to do a deep dive into these technologies, because you're going to hear from some of the folks from some of these companies here on this Dare to Be Great 3 conference. If you go back to Dare to Be Great 1, Dare to Be Great 2, North Carolina's conference, in other words, just go to the Within the Trenches and go through all the conferences, and you'll get to see a lot of the folks from these companies really doing their products justice. But obviously, the Rapid SOS Portal is near and dear to my heart. I worked with an amazing team to build this product that is just getting better and better and better each day. And when we first rolled it out in 2018, it was a simple, web browser with a search that allowed you to kind of search a 911 call phone number. We did meet resistance. Right. So there were folks that were a little hesitant, but now I think most folks are seeing like this is really impressive technology. But you guys in Baldwin County were one of the first to adopt jurisdiction view, which was amazing, allowing folks to see the location on the screen where the 911 call is coming from, a lot of times before the phone is even ringing in your 911 center. Do you want to talk a little bit about how this tool was really beneficial for not only your folks, but the folks that came in?
Yeah, certainly. So, during the height of all the calls that were coming in and taken, we were able to, people were experiencing something that they've never experienced in their lives. I mean, so you have to understand that Baldwin County, Alabama has been the fastest growing county in Alabama for 10 years straight. And it was 16 years to the day since the last major storm hit this area. So we're talking about tens of thousands of people that have never experienced anything like this. They're experiencing this, and we all know from the work we do every day that when people are in their worst situation that they don't remember anything. Something as simple as where they are or their address, especially when water's coming in their house and they're just freaking out and don't know what to do. They don't even know what they need to do or where they're at. So we were able to save seconds or probably even minutes in some cases by having the rapid SOS technology available in the jurisdiction view, because by the time we got to answering the call, we already had the full pin drop of where they were. And I know just for me personally that the calls I answered, I asked very few people what their address was. I was just confirming what their address was or where they were at. On top of that, we've seen events since, Sally, that have also led to this, but Rapid SOS is a perfect mutual aid tool because we had TERT members coming in that utilize Rapid SOS at their local jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So all they had to do was come in. We created some generic logins so that they would get our jurisdiction view, and they were able to work seamlessly because they were using tools that they were already used to get location information for people that were calling for help.
And in this situation too, I can just envision like through a hurricane, there's a lot of things that are missing, like street signs and, landmarks get destroyed or signs are blown off of windows. So if folks didn't necessarily know where they were, this was, an amazing benefit. And the other piece too is being able to receive like medical information from Apple and Medical Alert and just so much other data that I know folks are really afraid of. But if you think about it in situations like this, you might have somebody that has an extensive medical history and they can't communicate that to you, right? They might not be able to speak to you for whatever reason. So to have that information was really beneficial. And I was still upset with you that you didn't send me a screenshot of like all the green pins everywhere, but I'll let it go.
Priorities.
You were just a little busy. And then, so here comes what 3 words busting into the United States. They have been all over other parts of the world. And, when they came into the game, I immediately wanted to learn as much as I could about it. And I do want to start by saying that there are differences between what the public has access to as far as what 3 words go, but also what the public safety people have. So for those that are not familiar with what 3 words, again, they're on all kinds of conferences through Within the Trenches here on Crowdcast. You can go find Ashley. She explains it amazingly. But basically, they've taken the world and they've cut it up into 10 by 10, 10 foot by 10 foot boxes, and they've assigned 3 words. 3 words to those. They don't use words that are interchangeable. Like you won't see the word night and night because they're spelled differently. But Dan, I'm going to ask you to just kind of explain, your perspective of it. And then I have a couple of slides that I want to share that just kind of shows what I think of it and how I perceived it, per se.
Like you said, Tracy, I mean, during storms or, major events, things change. Let's just we're talking about storms. So, like you said, street signs are gone, landmarks are gone, houses are gone, things look different, streets are flooded. So people being able to give you landmarks or cross streets just will not exist in those type of situations. So just like a GPS coordinate, what's not going to change is that, well, I mean, I guess it could, a piece of Earth could get washed away, but generally that same piece of Earth is going to be there. Of course, they do have the 10-foot squares in the ocean too. So
yep, they do.
So, being able to pinpoint to a 10-foot by 10-foot square of where someone is, while we were not using this particular technology during Sally, I mean, we have integrated it so deeply since in everything we do. I mean, obviously it's in the Rapid SOS call now, but we also have it in our CAD maps. So every call we get that plots on our CAD maps has the what 3 words address. We can search our CAD maps by what 3 words address. And, our GIS manager, Scott Warner, has done an amazing job getting us all this data. There you go, data to our dispatchers on the floor. And Scott's from Michigan, so he's going to agree with you. But being able to utilize this technology, so let's take it outside of what we would use in a storm situation, but what you use every day. So we have a lot of waterway incidents here locally that have no dispatchable address. We have a lot of hiking trails, a lot of marshy areas that people explore off into. So anybody that has anything that is not a dispatchable address, or if you have a large event venue, you may dispatch your people to a concert hall, but that's not, the patient is not at the front door or wherever they may need to go. So what 3 words allows you to get people to where that person that needs the help is. And it's so easy to use. I don't even know that you can easily explain how easy it is to use. But
so I'm going to show a couple of slides. So what I think is really cool is, so number one, like I said, I saw in some Facebook chat groups where folks will ask about what 3 words, and I'll see some of the resistance, like how many tools are we going to have? Like how many location things are we going to have? What I can tell you is we need all the tools, every one of them. If there is a free tool out there, you need all the tools, and you need to train on them, and you need to use them, and you need to advocate for them, because there are going to be times where one works, the other one doesn't. And if this works, then that, you're going to use all the tools. One of the famous sayings I had in my dispatch center, if you interviewed any of my telecommunicators, they would tell you that I was full of sayings, they existed. And one of the sayings that I live by and I share in a lot of my training is defend why you did versus why you didn't. And if I looked at all of the tools in the toolbox, I remember when I was a baby dispatcher, if I couldn't find a caller, there was one tool I had. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have Google Maps. I had one opportunity, and that was to get on the phone with Verizon, try to figure out who the provider was, and then contact them. And 20 minutes later, I'm faxing stuff back and forth and trying to justify why I need them to find the call. I'd have to get creative in what I was saying just to get them to agree to ping that call. And maybe it was a 20-minute location, 20-minute old location, and people died because of it, right? So when I say use all the tools, number one, be open to accepting an understanding of the knowledge. So one of the things that I did see when folks were talking about what 3 words is when somebody posts about what 3 words, folks will just go to the what 3 words website, and they will look at it and be like, well, how is this going to help me in 911? I don't understand how this is going to help me. Well, you and I, on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, because that's how we both roll, I texted you and I said, Dan, can you send me the what 3 words link? Because I'm putting together our presentation. And you sent me the link. And I just want to show folks that and I did block out some of the link there, because it's really important that you reach out to Ashley at What 3 Words to get connected with the public safety side of it, right? So what I did is, as soon as Dan sent me this link, I clicked on it. And as soon as I clicked on it, it popped up this screen right here. And I think the funniest part about the whole thing is I got this when I was in my cast and I couldn't move for 5 months. So the fact that my 3 words on my couch were inactivity, however, avoiding, it was wicked appropriate, right? So I want folks to know that the public safety side of it, Dan was able to send me that link. So what does that mean? It's not just for calls that come in on 911. And that's a big benefit, right? So I'm going to show you a couple more slides. And then, Dan, I'm going to ask you a question. This is phenomenal. So Rapid SOS and What 3 Words have joined forces, which was inevitable. Like it had to happen because those telecommunicators, they're getting used to using the Rapid SOS portal. Now you get to see exactly what the 3 words are. But then folks will question like, well, what do I do with it now? You can either have the web browser, right? So you can, if you can't find that location and it's not necessarily, if you have somebody in the field that needs it, you go to the What 3 Words website and they can type in those words and get the exact location. This is another funny one that I thought, this is my backyard, disposable paramedic liver. How appropriate, right? But this is the key. This for me was the key. Have you ever had to tell your field responders how to get somewhere? Are you telling them to take a left at the tree? Are you the farm, the rock? You try to give the description. You try to give them the best information as possible. How about if your agency was well-versed? How if your first responders had access, and I'm not saying they have to download it on their personal phones, but if they had the understanding and education in the field as to the benefit of What 3 Words, imagine when that 911 call comes in and the Rapid SOS portal displays not only the location where you have all the visual, but they have those 3 words sitting there. And instead of me trying to give somebody in the field a lat long, which most people don't do, they're able to access that information this quickly. So you can see popped open the app, or again, on their MDTs, if they go to the website, and I'm typing in disposable.paramedic liver because I thought that one was funny. It starts to auto-populate. And now instantly your field responders know exactly where that person is calling from. Tomorrow at 11:15, I'll be doing a presentation with Jill Plush, whose son was unable to be located in an emergency situation. And I can't help but think about the times where we try desperately to tell our responders verbally where somebody is. But imagine if they had the tools in the field, not only in the dispatch center, to be able to find that person and use Google Maps to be led right to them. So, Dan, as far as your field responders, like in the water incidents, right?
Yeah, so we're working with our CAD vendor, and very soon we will be sending out with every call that we dispatch through whatever alerting app they use or an SMS text message. They will be getting the link to the What 3 Words map on every call. So there will be no more guesswork done on how to get there and where the actual plot from the phase 2 or the Rapid SOS hit is at.
That's awesome. And that's what it's all about, right? It's all about getting these tools in place. So I had somebody explain to me that they don't have the ability to text out. And we're going to talk about Texty in just a second and how you guys utilize Texty, but not everybody has a texting out opportunity. So I just wanted to show folks that Google Voice is a free app that can be put on your desktop. And you basically create a phone number where your folks are able to just text out. It doesn't have to be my phone number. It's a generic phone number that's assigned to you by Google Voice. And this right here is an example of just that. I basically created a Google Voice phone number. I've, blurred these out, but here's the phone number. Here's the generic phone number up here in the right-hand corner. And I basically took that link and I shipped it out to my own phone number. And just to show you that how the process can work, right? So please click on the link so I can find you. You send them the link. Tell me the 3 words that appear, or tap the 2 papers on top of the 2 papers that are on top of each other to copy the words and paste them back here. I mean, these are things that are literally taking milliseconds in the midst of an emergency. And it seems like a lot, but it's not. So Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about plus codes? I know this is fairly new. This isn't something that's, out there, but I want folks to understand what it is. So when that caller says, my plus code is this.
Yeah, so plus codes are basically, and I'm going to probably say this very cheaply for both sides, but I think in layman's terms, plus codes are Google's version of what 3 words. And the difference is that the Google side is a code that, in my personal opinion, is difficult to read, understand, and translate. So, we use what 3 words as the standard, but we do have Google Plus codes in our CAD maps as well. So with every 911 call we get GPS coordinates, we get the closest dispatchable address through Rapid SOS, and we also get what 3 words and Google Plus codes automatically on every single call that we take.
And that's amazing, right? Somebody said it before in the chat. I don't want to scroll back to see, but basically, it's true. The days of not being able to find people are getting fewer, than what we used to have. We have so many tools, and I'm going to touch base on that in just a second when I talk about a quote from Tyrell Morris that he said on one of my podcasts. But Dan, will you talk a little bit about Texty and how you guys utilize Texty, what it is and how you guys used it in the storm?
Texty is a texting application through InDigital. InDigital administers the Alabama Next Generation 911 system. And so Texty is our text to 911 application. And what Texty allows us to do is allows us to send and receive 911 calls. We can initiate a outbound text to any 10-digit phone number anywhere in the country, really. But, obviously we don't do that every day. But and with Texty, it integrates Rapid SOS location. It can be used during cell service overload, just as mentioned here. We did take some text 911 calls during Sally where people couldn't get through on 911. And for those that have toyed with the idea of getting text to 911, there should be nothing stopping you and no hesitation. You will not be overloaded and bombarded with text 911 calls. But what we have, so in our area, we're a tourist area. We have 6 million visitors that come to this area from all over the country and other countries every year. And so what that leads to is a lot of 911 hang-up calls, accidental calls, Apple Watch calls. In as much as that last year, 30% of our overall calls were 911 hang-ups. So that's very taxing on our staff. But what we're able to do with Texty is that, so with all the days of the robocalls and all the spam calls, nobody answers a phone call from an area code or a number you don't recognize. Nobody's just going to do it. So when we get these hang-up calls, they don't answer us back. So what we've been able to do is send a text to the caller, and we have a very high success rate of people that will answer the text and say, "I'm sorry, my Apple Watch dialed it," or "I was trying to turn my phone off, accident, whatever." And we're able to close out that call versus having to start a law enforcement response.
Yeah. So some of these, Texty, you'd have to reach out to the digital folks. But a lot of the things that we've talked about are free solutions, right? So to me, it's definitely, a no-brainer. And this video, like this little GIF, it couldn't be a better one, because as I traveled across the country and I talked about the Rapid SOS Portal, or I've started preaching the praises of what 3 words, because separately, they're both amazing. Put together, they're a super tool. But a lot of folks say, well, but I want it all on one screen. And while I would love to be able to, take a magic wand and be like, poof, yes, everything is in one place, we know that is not how it works. And we meet resistance. We get folks that are, frustrated that they have another screen to log into. And those of us that were on the product development side, we can appreciate and understand the last thing that folks want to be doing is logging into another screen. But this right here, this sentence right here, I did an interview on my podcast with Tyrell Morris. Again, if you want to go back and listen to it. But I was talking about just this. I was talking about, what happens when you have the telecommunicator that is frustrated that there's another piece of equipment or another screen or another thing they have to log into. It doesn't matter if it's a tool that's going to help them, find somebody or better serve somebody. It's just a level of frustration. What do you say to them to get them to buy into this? And this was his response. And it was so powerful. He said, anytime I have somebody that I meet resistance or, they're not wanting, he didn't have the buy-in, he would ask them, are you still connected to the mission? And I just think that's a really powerful statement. I know, Dan, you guys have implemented lots and lots of technology. Have you met resistance? Are your folks, receiving it well? How are they doing with it?
It's been overall well received. There is concern. I would say the concern is the biggest issue. It's not wanting to do it. It's how do we integrate all these things and carry out the mission. Once we work through those very few initial concerns. I would be willing to say, and for my staff that watches this or is watching it now, I would be willing to say if I went out there today and took away Rapid SOS and What 3 Words and some of the other things we've implemented, that they would pitch a fit and tell me to get out and get back to my office.
I would agree. I would agree. Once you start using it, it's amazing. So I want to say thank you first. I'll let Dan say thank you in a second, but here is our contact information. On Scene First with Tracy Eldridge is the podcast. And I also created a Facebook group for mental health and wellness for 911 and public safety. And if you notice, I said 911 and public safety because the foundation of the folks that are in that safety net group, it's a private group, are 911 telecommunicators, but we do let the police and fire folks and EMS folks in. And there's just some tips and tools there. My email address is there. Dan, do you want to tell them about your podcast?
Yes, so my podcast, Public Safety and Technology, I got to get back. I got another kick in the rear, Tracy, but I got to get back on that. But, we talk about all things public safety and technology, and the driving force behind that is trying to just I've seen some comments even hearing this that we expose people to some new things. So
we did.
The goal of my podcast is to just get information out about all these tools and about how they're being used in the real world. Because so I believe that's what's missing in our line of work is that people that are these amazing people that are attending this conference. Kudos to you guys, but there's 2 or 3 times more of us out there that are not here and that still have no idea this stuff exists. So that's our mission, is just to reach as many people we can and give real world examples of how all of this technology can work together.
Excellent. Well, thank you, telecommunicators. You're amazing. Keep up the great work. And Ricardo, come on back, my friend. And thank you for allowing us to share this really important information. We appreciate you and all that you do.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. For everyone who is here, make sure that you jump into the Discord, to the community that we have there in virtual events under Dare to Be Great. We've got speakers that have been jumping in here and there. There's been a lot of conversation in there. So if you have any questions for the speakers or anything, you can jump in there. They will be sharing their information there as well, whether it be their presentation or any links to anything that they're working on. So make sure to check that out. And then I was looking at the comments here, and Joyce had put up an
I
angry
was wondering
face.
what we did to upset her.
I know. I was like, dang.
I'm like, how did we make Joyce angry? I'm like, woo, that's the first. I got nervous for a second, girl.
I was like, that was an excellent session. What happened? Okay, so she was trying to click the heart. Okay. All right. We're good then. Let's see. Where's the community on Facebook you're talking about? It's actually on Discord. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a call to action and all on here, because this will carry over throughout every single session, and then that will be there as well. So I will put that up here in just a moment. Thank you both again for this session. It was an excellent one, and then I'm looking forward to your session tomorrow, Tracy, with
Thank you.
With Jill Plush. That one, you did that. It was North Carolina, right?
Yeah, and I did it with
together.
Yeah, so I did it with Ron for the North Carolina one, so I'll be doing it with Jill. So even if you attended North Carolina, there's still lots of information to learn.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I'm going to bring you both down here, and then I've got one last thing for everyone as we are wrapping up this session, this last session of Pre-Con Day. Again, this is the final Dare to Be Great 3 virtual conference, and today has been amazing. We had some technical difficulties throughout the day, but man, that's how we do it, right? We on the fly do troubleshooting, and everyone today has done such an amazing job. Please make sure to check them out in the community to make contact with them and get any other extra information. Also, if you go to the website withinthetrenches.net and /conference, if you go there, you can see all of the information there as well. You can see the pictures of every single speaker, their profiles, their company pages, the sponsors, all of that information is there. You can even download the conference guide. All of that information is there, so make sure to check that out. And then the last thing that we have here is a giveaway. So I want to do this giveaway really quick before we jump over to the podcast page for on Facebook, where we're going to do After the Greatness, and this is where we come together. Today we're going to be getting together with Lori and Vicky of InDigital, and we are going to be doing a live recap of the day's events and talk about all the different sessions, and also learn about what is going on with InDigital, any new things that are going on there today. So let me share my my tab here, and also, you need to be present to win this. So there are a lot of names in here, as you can see, and we're going to go ahead and do this. All right. Is it Tracy Vives? Are you here? Let's see. If you are, answer in the comments. Otherwise, so it looks like you're live. You should be here. We'll see if you pop up in the comments here. Or if someone knows you, they can say, "Hey, you won." All right, so it says that you're live. So let's see. Tracy V, are you up in here? Going once. Let's see if she's in here. Yeah, come back. I looked you up here. It says that you're live. So you're in here somewhere in this room. Maybe you stepped away for a quick drink. We got people saying, "I could be Tracy for a day." Oh, that's funny. All right, I'm going to keep it here for a moment. And then I'll drop it down. All right, so I'm going to give you just a few more seconds, and then we're going to go to the next one. I wish there was somebody around there. Does anybody know? There's a lot of people in the comments. This is funny. This is making it even better. What's going to be even more funny, actually good for those who are end up watching this in the replay, is because they'll be able to go in there and just fast forward this part. They won't have to worry about this. Yeah, exactly. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're going to spin that wheel. We waited long enough. Grady victory. Is there a Grady victory in here? What's going to be funny is that if I have to choose like several. Nope. All right, so we're gonna do this again because I just looked up that person and they're not even live anymore. They split. This is funny, man. Look at that one. Gary won. Woo! Well done, Gary. Now you, I know you're here, so that works. All right. Send me a message on Facebook, dude, and I'll hook you up with your $100 Amazon gift card. Fix, yeah. Whatever, dude. Well, we're going to be doing another one during the After the Greatness. So there's this one that we just did, and there's going to be another one here in just a little bit. So hang tight. Thank you all for joining us for this pre-con day of Dare to Be Great 3. Tomorrow is the first official day, and we're going to be starting out with Diamond sponsor speaker out of Rapid Deploy. And then we're going to have all of the industry partner sessions that are going to be going on. And then in the afternoon, our keynote speaker is going to be Congresswoman Norma Torres. So stay tuned. Share this up with those that you know. And thank you so very much for joining us. It has been an amazing day. Have a good one.